Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. So in this video what we're going to do is cover the launch of Overwatch 2 on Steam and the reaction the game is receiving, and also there's a bunch of updates that come in the way of I believe this was like a journalistic roundtable that was held by Blizzard, in which a bunch of journalists from different websites could ask them questions, and some of these websites obviously turn the answers into various articles which we're going to cover in this video. So with that being said, let's jump over and take a look at this. So this is Overwatch 2 right now on Steam. In fact, I'll refresh this so we've got bang up-to-date figures. So we're actually looking at 73,000 players are playing the game right now, with an all-time peak of 75,000 players at the moment. And you can see this is trending up, which is a good sign. Now, I want to go over and show you this. So this is the basically the list of the games that are being played the most at the moment. Again, I'll refresh this just so we get up-to-date figures. And yeah, so what we've got is obviously Counter-Strike's always at the top of this list with over 1 million concurrent players. Baldur's Gate is doing really well still. This, by the way, is fantastic. If you like RPG games, check this out. This is probably going to be Game of the Year. It is incredible. You can literally do anything in the game. It's so good. And then, yeah, then we start seeing what you may be able to, I guess, classify as contemporaries to Overwatch. This is Apex Legends. It's currently sitting at nearly 400,000 concurrent players. Now, there is a caveat here. Overwatch is available on Battle.net, and it's been on Battle.net for a very long time. I don't think the game simply going onto Steam will make people who play on Battle.net go, you know what? I'm going to go over and play on Steam. Some people will, but I think people will probably just stick to the platform that they're on. This is where I think the figures get kind of interesting. So as we scroll down, we'll see Overwatch here. Oh, Call of Duty's got a little bit more players at the moment, but whatever. Overwatch, let's say it's sitting at 70,000. At the moment, right? The 13th most played game. This is on the back of its massive advertising campaign. They got John Cena involved. There's like a massive advert across Waterloo Station in London, which probably cost them tons of money. There's loads of marketing, like in things like bus stops around the UK. So this is, you know, the UK is small, right? So there's a massive advertising campaign. There were rolling adverts before the Barbie and Oppenheimer movies that have just come out. So they've done a lot. There's been loads of sponsored streamers. There's been massive mega content creators producing sponsored content on the game. And it's basically culminated in this figure of 73,000. Now, I will give them the benefit of the doubt and say this is probably, the majority of this number is new players. Like this here, it's probably new players, right? So this is 70-odd thousand players who are jumped in and are playing right now who probably haven't played Overwatch before. Now, if you go to the homepage of Steam, in fact, we're going to get onto this in a moment, but if you go to the homepage of Steam, again, you will see massive advert, more advertising spend, invasion, play Overwatch 2 now, let's go. So there's a massive amount of advertising going into this. So you can kind of be a bit cynical with this and go, well, okay, so all of this has only resulted in this. And when I look at these other games, I mean, I know Apex Legends has currently got a new content update. I think they've done something to Revenant. I think they've remade the character. Don't quote me on that, though. But there's an update out for Apex Legends, and that's at 400,000. Now, I know Battle.net is going to be a significant amount of players for Overwatch 2 on PC, whereas I'd imagine Apex Legends is mainly Steam. I'm not even sure if you can play it on Origin anymore, but I don't know. Yeah, so these figures, are they great? I think they're okay. I think this 70,000 is okay. Maybe I'm smoking a bit of copium, but I think this is okay for Overwatch. What I'm worried about is, where does this peak go? Like, how do they make this go higher? They've literally tried their hardest by dumping as much content as they've got available at the moment and dropping some of the much awaited PvE, and it's only really resulted in this. Now, again, this might go up. This graph is trending upwards, but as you can see from yesterday, yeah, it wasn't really that. You know, there's only like 40,000 maximum on it there, 45,000 you could maybe say this morning. But yeah, and we're going into the weekend as well, so more people will load up on Steam, and I'd imagine this will get to 100,000. I would be a bit disappointed if it didn't, if I was Blizzard. So that's the Steam launch impact we've seen so far. And remember what I said, guys, there's a lot going on here. There is, like, Overwatch is available on loads of different platforms. It's very popular on console. I know Apex Legends is also popular on console as well, but for Overwatch, obviously, you've got PlayStation, you've got Xbox, you've got Switch, which is probably by far the lowest player base, and you've got PC. I don't know which player base is bigger, PC or console. I don't know, but they're probably comparable in size. So yeah, not too bad, I guess. Now let's move on to this. So this is the Overwatch page on Steam, and as I scroll down, you will see this is overwhelmingly negative. 35,000 reviews we've had. And in fact, I'll refresh this. It's probably going to go up. Yeah, 42,000. Don't know what this is. Get rid of that. 42,000 reviews and overwhelmingly negative. 11% of the 42,000 user reviews for this game are positive. Now, I think this was to be expected. And I don't think Blizzard went into this thinking, you know what, we're going to get great reception, because you're just not. And the problem with Steam reviews is it gives a very public place for players to basically outline their frustrations with the game. And that's what's happening here, like on a massive scale. People are turning up and they're saying this, 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 and this. And we're just going to go through some of it because, I mean, obviously the top one here, the people who make Overwatch porn work harder than the people who make Overwatch. Yeah, it's funny, but it's not true. And I think this is, I mean, the people who make Overwatch, right, so the developers, they are not the people that decide when things are launched, what's getting made, how things are packaged together, the monetization of the game, and all of that stuff, right? They literally are given a task. It is their job to make this game. The task would be, right, we want a new hero, a support hero, go and make it. They make Iliari. And we're like, wow, okay, cool. They don't go, right, we're going to make a battle pass with a load of pointless rewards and we're going to stuff loads of stuff, you know, behind paywalls. We're going to put heroes in the battle pass, so you need to buy. The devs do not do that. And in fact, I'm pretty sure the devs would be completely against that, because the devs want the game to be good. You have to remember their names are attached to this thing. They are producing it and they take a lot of heat. And it's one of the biggest like scams in the gaming industry, where the executives don't get the heat. It's the developers who get the heat. And the execs must love it, because they're sitting there, faceless monsters who do these things, make these decisions, and they don't even have to defend themselves, because it's the developers who are the public-facing sort of element or arm of the game, well, the game's development, and they take the heat. So, yeah, while this is funny, the people that make Overwatch, they work extremely hard, and they've had a very difficult time of it as well. So always be aware of that. So, yeah, again, it's just a stupid review there. So this one, Overwatch 2 has no respect for you. It's an attempt to pry open your wallet while masquerading as the game it used to be. I picked up the game in 2016. I was instantly hooked, like so many others. Overwatch remained my favorite shooter for years, even during the drought of content on the run to Overwatch 2. While it retains its charming design, wonderful cast of characters, and some of the best multiplayer maps I've ever played on, Overwatch 2 brought a few enormous fundamental downgrades. Okay, so heroes in the battle pass. I mean, yeah, this is the other thing as well. I think that there is a very strong element of fatigue when it comes to discussing these topics, especially with people that do play Overwatch now, maybe even newer Overwatch players who've come on board with Overwatch 2, where it's like, yeah, every game does this, and just take it. Well, you can't just sit there and take it when you know they could do better, and that's the issue we've got. And so, yeah, I think heroes in the battle pass for me, when I look back on this game in a few years' time, it will be that was the moment where you sort of knew all hope would be lost in terms of monetization. Now, they can fix these things, and there are things they can do. You know, maybe they do change their tune when the Microsoft buyout comes into effect later on in the year, or something else major happens. But yeah, I mean, I agree with this. I'm not going to read through this, but I agree. Heroes in the Battle Pass is just terrible. It goes on to say the Battle Pass itself and the new approach to cosmetics. I've never really been opposed to the idea of Battle Pass systems, but compared to other games, Overwatch 2's passes are a joke. Each pass has 80 levels of stuff, usually 8 skins with very nice customizable one at the end, and a bunch of other stuff to pad it out, as is the norm. This filler stuff ranges from titles and nameplates to emotes. I believe they've recently added credits in there, which is a great step forward, but doesn't undo the aforementioned critical misstep of including core gameplay features behind a paywall. Cosmetics have always been a huge part of Overwatch. The skins are designed by insanely talented artists with equally talented modelers. These skins continue to be fantastic, which is true, but the prices are insulting. Legendary skins, ones that aren't recolors, are on average around 20 plus quid. Well, okay, yeah, $19, $20, whatever. But I do just want to touch on this point here of, like, so the design is still, like, Overwatch's design is still awesome. Like, the visual, the graphic design, everything is awesome in that regard. I mean, look at Iliari at the moment. She looks great. Her skins look great. It's well made. Look at the skins. They're well made. Like, I know they are shoved, like, there's Omnic style skins, but a bunch of them are just shoved behind. You've got to buy the ultimate PvE, God knows what bundle, and then you've got to buy this and you've got to buy that. And it is, I think insulting is a good way to put it, because I'm sure the artists are like wanting people to appreciate what they've produced, but then all people see is the price of this stuff and go, what the hell is this? It's crazy. So yeah, fair play. The PvE. So this is obviously another issue. So I never had too much interest in the PvE, but it was the driving point behind that whole idea of Overwatch 2, which again I agree with. It was. It absolutely was the driving point behind Overwatch 2. That's what we were told anyways. It ended up being a bait and switch to implement all of these new monetization systems. Hell, even after the cancellation of PvE, we're still getting PvE missions, except they're now being sold as individual packs. Just another way to squeeze your wallet. You know, fair enough. Got another review here. They released Overwatch 2 as a free-to-play business model, which leans more heavily into microtransactions, overpriced skins, and predatory behavior. To make matters worse, they shut down the first game, making it unplayable for people who purchased it, meaning the player base has to move over to this free-to-play business model to keep playing the game. But at least it will have the promised PvE hero mode that would feature character progression, which was the main part of the game's selling point. No, that was cancelled, but you can buy a lighter story mission for only $15. Don't support this predatory behavior. I mean, yeah, like, I think when you look at PvE, obviously this has been in development for a long, long time. There was a tweet from, let me just bring this up, actually. There was a tweet from, Michael Chu about the Rio de Janeiro mission. Let me just find this, because this will give you like an idea for the date. Yeah, so if I bring this in and we take a look at this. This is Michael Chu, and he says, sharing today as the Overwatch campaign is finally releasing. Notes from the first story brainstorm that ended up becoming Overwatch 2, dated September the 3rd, 2015. Rio, team doesn't have a leader, lacking team... I don't know what that says. Cohesion, I think, maybe. See, cohesion. Lucio asked for help. But this is like the outline of the Rio mission back in 2015. Anyway, we end up with these 3 missions, and like, I think it's almost like the developers, they want to get this out the door, and this is their way of doing it. And I don't know the way this is going to manifest going forward. We know we're not going to get any more PvE story missions this year. I'd imagine this is going to be something which happens once a year, and it's almost like the expansion launch of Overwatch every year, where they go after the the $40, $50, $60, whatever it might be. In fact, what are they even charging for this on Steam? Let me go through this. So you can see, look, I've loaded it up for half an hour to check it out on Steam, but I've been playing it on Battle.net, which I don't think I'll play it on Steam, but I understand why people would play it on Steam anyway, especially if you don't want loads of like launches installed. So yeah, like Overwatch 2 Invasion Ultimate Bundle, $34.99. You know, I'd imagine that next year we'll have the Overwatch 2 Strikes Back Ultimate Bundle for $34.99, and then the year after that we'll get one. So this is like their attempt at launching the game every year to get a box sale. This is exactly what Call of Duty does, so it makes a lot of sense that we're seeing it with this, and that's probably what we're going to see going forward. But this feels terrible, doesn't it? Because it's not what we wanted. It's not what Overwatch 2 was meant to be, and you know, I've been over that to death, but I can understand the frustration. So I've been seeing a lot of comments out on Twitter where people are saying, these reviews on Steam, it's just review bombing. Well, I don't actually think it is. Like, I think that some of these are legitimate. You know, that's absolutely legitimate, that review. This is legitimate as well. They forgot to add content for 3 years, okay? They should make a sequel that includes the whole PvE experience we were promised. Fair enough. This, you know, is a bit more, let's just list a bunch of problems and whatever, which is fine, you know. Overwatch 1 over Overwatch 2. Team Fortress 2 Link. Okay, that's a bit of a troll meme there. Okay. And yeah, there's 42,000 reviews. I'm not going to go over all of them because, like, you can see this is negative. Now, I think what will happen is these reviews, or maybe the majority of them, will maybe get removed by Steam. So I think there's like a playtime requirement, and obviously a lot of these people would have like 0.1 hours on record. They've literally installed the game just to make a comment. But this is Team Fortress. Hang on, what am I? Oh no, that's the link. It's a Team Fortress 2. I was like, what? Team Fortress 2? I've got Team Fortress 2 on the brain. But yeah, like, as I'm going on some insane ramble here, like, yeah, like, the thing is, I get what these people are doing. I get the frustration. Is Overwatch an overwhelmingly negative game? No, it really isn't. There still isn't really any other game like Overwatch and gives you what it gives you. But I completely understand the frustration because I've been out there and God knows I've made enough content covering the frustration. I think my viewpoint is very much set in stone at this point, and I'm sure a lot of people know what I think about this game and the way it's gone. I love the game. I don't like the monetization wrapper. That's the problem. And clearly, a lot of people do not like the monetization wrapper of this game. You know, they are not happy with it, and that's completely valid opinion. Okay, let's move on from the Steam reviews, but it's going to be interesting to follow this in the future, and also follow this, which I'm sure this has probably even gone up now. I'd imagine it has. Well, no, it's gone down a little bit. But playing figures, all of that stuff, we'll keep our eye on that and just see what happens. But yeah, I thought we had to cover that because it is a big sort of milestone in the game. Okay, talking about milestones, this is where we're going to get into some of the stuff from the journalists. Now, what we've got here is, this is IGN, and they leave with the headline, Overwatch 2 has now moved on from early access, Blizzard says. This is the moment. Now, in case you forgot, Overwatch was in early access. Overwatch 2 was an early access launch, and this is the launch. So, presumably, this is what they would have liked to have launched the game with back in October last year. So, the article goes on to say, with the release of Season 6, Overwatch 2 has now moved on from its early access period, Blizzard have said. Overwatch 2 Invasion launches today alongside a big update that adds a raft of new modes and story missions. A new hero and new maps, Overwatch 2 also launches on Steam today in a move that is sure to boost the game's player count. Speaking to reporters ahead of the launch, executive producer Jared Noose declared Invasion the point at which Overwatch 2 graduates from being an early access game to a full live service game. Invasion is the point at which we move on from early access. For me, it's less about content threshold and more about, are we operating the game we want to operate? Is this the structure, the cadence, the amount of things we are able to make in release that we think moves us away from this learning period and into this really operating a game at a full feature level? For me, Overwatch 2 Invasion is that moment. We have a bunch of these features we found to be gaps in the game, like finding better ways to recognize player time and investment, learning things about competitive and making adjustments to that, with future adjustments planned. These are all things we got out of that initial period, and now we're able to move forward and settle into a rhythm. For me, this is the moment we move out of that early access phase into the full live game operations phase. So I think with this, Overwatch 2, I mean, Overwatch, this is going to sound really crazy, but Overwatch was never actually a live service game, although it kind of was, but it wasn't. Yes, they've made limited time events, seasonal events, as they were called back in the day, and these would come out, you know, for every seasonal event that Blizzard had planned. And these were cool when they first came out, because it was like, wow, this new little feature to the game, new game mode, new skins, new loot boxes, all this stuff, right? New items, whatever. It's an update to the game. Of course, obviously, it was all free, and that's all its own issue. But of course, you had to buy Overwatch as a box price back in the day. But they retooled the team and changed it to this content production pipeline, mass production content pipeline, let's say. And it looks like what is being said here by the executive producer is we are now at the point where we think we can just start pumping out content. Now, the issue I've got with this is when we look at the content that's actually in this game. I mean, let me just bring this up. So if we look at the Play Overwatch Twitter here, and on this, they've basically got the oh dear, they've retweeted a load of content creators. I'm trying to find a tweet. In fact, I don't know why I'm not showing this to you. I'll show it to you. So basically, I'm going through this, and you can see like they're just retweeting loads of stuff. But what I'm trying to find is the what you call it? It's totally gone out of my head. Not Ilari or Iliari. This thing. What's this thing called? Why have I forgot this? The roadmap. There we go. The roadmap for the season. All right. So this. Right, so there's a lot here, right? There's a lot of stuff. But, like, the question is this stuff which is like, wow. You know, it's like, oh, this is sick, and it's absolutely blown my mind. I think an interesting sort of thought experiment here is, what could you remove from this, and this season still has the same impact? And why have they put so much stuff into this? Is it a case of like we're just going to put as much out as possible and then just try? There is actually an article which sort of goes into detail on that a little bit. We'll get onto in a second. But yeah, you look at this, you've got a new hero, major attraction. That's what the game's all about. It's based on heroes. People want heroes. People will come back to play new heroes, especially if the new hero is really fun. She is really fun, and she's really good to play. Flashpoint, new game mode, okay, whatever. That's about time we got new game mode. Bunch of new maps, that's fine, right? Then we get Overwatch Invasion story missions. Okay, everyone wants to play these, so that is a draw for this season. It tells you what they are. Limited time free events. So you got the Underworld mode, the co-op mode, which is in the game until the 5th of September. Then it won't be. Then you've got things like Hero Masteries being added to the game, although it's not in the game at the moment. Although I have played this mode, but I don't think I can actually talk about it. But it is a little bit of a dark horse, I will say, that mode is. I don't think that'll get me in trouble. New player progression system, which is kind of a little bit insulting at the moment because it doesn't actually take into account any of your old progression. It's like new from this update. So everyone starts at like level 0 with all their heroes, and you have to start playing through them again. Now, I know why they've done this, because if they just suddenly let everyone who's played the game level up their player progression, loads of people would have like tons of levels on this, and it would sort of take away from it. So I can understand why they're starting from fresh. But again, this is that thing of going back to basically servicing new players and at the cost of older players. You know what I mean? Like, we don't care that you played the game years ago, because all we care about is what's happening right now, and whatever. Then they go in to try and sell you different kinds of bundles and whatever. So yeah, the moral of the story is there's a lot of stuff coming out, but what I would be worried about is it doesn't really matter if you're happy with the cadence or the amount of things you're making, if the amount of things you're making could be classified as mediocre, and what's the point of that? It's almost doing it for the sake of it. Anyway, so this is where we're going to talk a bit about the monetization of the PvE, because of course this is a massively contentious issue with the game. So this is from CNET, and this is what they say in terms of that. They say, the second story mission set in Sojourn's hometown of Toronto felt noticeably more engaging from both a story and gameplay perspective, while the other two felt more like extended versions of the archive PvE events. All three had moments that felt genuinely cool, but if you're primarily here for the gameplay instead of story, these missions might not be worth the $15 cost of entry. This then gets even worse when we start seeing articles like this popping up on Kotaku, where they just straight up say Overwatch 2 story missions are good, but they're not $15 good. The new PvE mode launching with Invasion has revamped enemy AI and bespoke battles, but its value is a big question mark. Now, there is, when we talk about the AI, it is basic AI. The AI just runs towards you or runs towards an objective, and that's kind of it. There are enhancements to this that we're not seeing in Archive. So there's like this modular destruction system to the bots, so you can shoot their arms off and stuff. That's pretty cool. You can shoot the legs off, and the bots will fall down on the floor, and then they'll start crawling towards you, or like the artillery units, you can blow their cannons off and things like that. So that's pretty cool, but it's still just a bot coming towards you, basically. So there isn't really much of a drastic change in that. Although the legendary difficult is extremely difficult, that mode is, because, I mean, again, you've basically got enemies that do tons of damage and have got loads of health. So that's the way they're handling the difficulty. But yeah, this Kotaku article just basically goes through, I know it's Kotaku, so whatever, but it just breaks down the PvE. Like, they had a bit of an interview with the developers, and I don't really think this is worth really covering. I guess we can go over the end section here, but this idea of like, is it really worth it? And despite the surprisingly bespoke feel of Overwatch 2's PvE, I return to the question that has plagued the game since launch: is $15 extra cost worth it? Blizzard's sequel is free to play, but its new heroes are locked behind the battle pass, and you either have to grind to get them through the free battle pass or fork over $10 for the premium one, which then grants you immediate access to the newest character. Legendary skins, which used to be found in loot boxes, you could either earn or pay for, are difficult to get now without forking over money. Many of the best skins, often shown in trailers for new seasons, are available for purchase in the in-game store, which is true. And Blizzard has confirmed that every new set of story missions will need to be purchased in order to access them, though there's currently no timeline for the next set of PvE will drop. Players will have to consider that going forward. So yeah, I mean, fair enough. So next up, I want to go over to here. This is GG Recon, and go and check out their website. But this is what I want to focus on. They've got a couple of articles up here with a little bit more extended information from the developers, because I think a lot of this has been sort of hidden. Well, not hidden, but it's been hard to find with the noise of everything else going on at the moment. So yeah, Overwatch 2 devs considered more frequent hero releases ahead of Season 6 launch. I think this is quite an interesting statement to make, because we do know that heroes are the backbone of this game, and I'm pretty sure they'll have data which shows them when a hero comes out, they suddenly sell more of everything. So let's make more heroes. That's a natural reaction, right? So they say, during a developer Q&A session, the game's lead designers talked about the importance of new heroes and the frequency of releases could be increased. And they say this: with the launch of Overwatch 2 and the introduction of the live service model, the development team has tried a wide range of content releases, from new maps and game modes to different arcade titles to Battle Pass skins and integrations. With 10 months of data since Overwatch 2's release, the team has gained insights into what its player base likes to engage with and wants to see more of. Okay, they then go on to say, according to Overwatch 2's executive producer Jared Noose, Overwatch 2 players aren't a group that share a collective want for new characters, but one with different tastes and profiles, all engaging with the game differently. And this is what he says: it really depends on the player you're talking about. Different things generate different buzz for different folks. If I said overall for the player base, I think heroes are at the heart and soul of Overwatch as a franchise. I mean, this is a bit of a crap comment, really, because I don't think anyone, like, if you said to anybody, would you take a new map over a new hero? I think everyone takes a new hero, right? Yeah, okay, there'll be outliers out there, somebody who's just a diehard fan of new maps in Overwatch 2, in which case they just want new maps. But, you know, you can see this in a lot of, you know, I always remember, like, whenever there was a new map, if you ever made any content on a new map, it would get drastically less views than contents on a new hero. Yeah, this was across everybody on YouTube. It was literally across everything, right? So I think it's easy, and I think everyone as players know heroes are the main draw of this game. So this comment, whatever. The article then goes on to say, as the team has expressed a desire to be receptive to the audience's appetites, it stands to reason that an increase in hero releases could be one such way to give players more of what they enjoy. While there are no immediate results to report, there appears to be an ongoing internal discussion around the subject. So Jared Noose goes on to say, could we release heroes more frequently than we do now? Potentially. It's something we are discussing, but we don't have any concrete plans to announce. Art director Dion Rogers echoed the sentiment, stating, I would love to, but it's hard. It's not easy to make an Overwatch hero, and there is a lot goes into it. It's definitely something we'd love to increase at some point. So, I mean, apparently, according to Noose, goes on to say, the development team is currently in the planning process for the content release calendar for 2024. Until then, we'll have to wait and see what the Overwatch team has in store for the future. So, potentially, they increase the number of heroes to try and increase game revenue, I guess, and player engagement. I don't know. But, I mean, you guys probably remember by now, there was a comment from the general manager of Overwatch, and this was before Overwatch 2 launched, and his name's Walter Kong, and he essentially said, look, heroes are the highest engagement thing in our game. That's why we decided to monetize them in the Battle Pass. That kind of tells you everything you need to know. Anyway, let's move on. So this now is about map voting. So GG Recon went into a bit of a breakdown as to map voting and stuff like that during this Q&A. And they say this: during the developer Q&A, Aaron Keller listed multiple arguments as to why his team didn't believe map voting or vetoes to be the right choice for Overwatch 2 at this point in time. We think there is value to having a variety to the maps and the experience in Overwatch. You look to the other games, and especially the other shooters on the market right now, they might take place on just a few maps. I mean, I understand it. And then they also go on to say that there is a negative impact on matchmaking as well. So, according to game director Aaron Keller, creating a map voting or selection system for players leaves the team with two undesirable choices. Doing that would either up our matchmaking times, or we would have to be more flexible to how balanced some of the matches were. They then go on to talk about some of Overwatch's core values and say there is not just a skill expression in being able to master all the different maps in Overwatch, but there's also the expression of variety and this journey that we take you on across the world. That's always been a value for the game. When Overwatch 2 launched, we had a map catalogue that we put out with the game, and it took 3 to 4 maps out of rotation every season. Our players universally spoke out to that, so it's not something that they wanted to have. I mean, yeah, true. I mean, and they did get rid of map pools, as he said, into the lifespan of Overwatch 2, because I remember that, you know, like he just said, we only used to have certain maps, and maps were taken out of rotation. That got removed, and that's good, right? So I think more maps is fine. Okay, so they also then go on to say, look, nothing's set in stone, and with all these things right now, we are not in a place we're looking at adding a map voting system. It could change in the future as our game changes and our players' preferences change. I mean, whatever. So they're not working on that, which I think is fine. I'm not personally too bothered about a map voting system. So the next thing we get onto is Overwatch 2's Aaron Keller on lessons learned since controversial launch. And we're going to go through this article because we want to sort of I want to know what they think is their biggest lessons they've learned so far. So the article written by the legend Yiska goes on to say, it's been 10 months since Overwatch 2 was released. With the introduction of its story missions in Season 6, the development team is filling in some of the gaps outlined in the initial version of the game. Other parts, namely hero missions, had to be abandoned. Judging by the comments section on most Overwatch 2 content, the community has yet to forgive. Fighting an uphill battle to regain trust, the development team has turned to more transparent communication and player feedback focused on development. During a Q&A session, game director Aaron Keller and executive producer Jared Noose talked about the key lessons from the first 10 months of Overwatch 2. Since the launch of Overwatch 2, we've made a very concerted effort to be more communicative and more transparent with our players. We have a bi-weekly blog that goes out. We are looking to do even more stuff on this, shared Keller. Indeed, there have been times in the past, both under new and old leadership, where the team turned dark for months, leaving the player base to speculate on the progress of the game. We changed our values in the way we talk to the community. Over time, I think before Overwatch 2 launched, we were a little more hands-off with the community. We weren't as transparent as we are now. And to be honest, some of that was out of fear. We didn't want to give bad news to the community or say something that they might interpret as negative to the game, Keller explained. When we launched Overwatch 2, we realized that it's not really transparent communication. That's just more marketing. We'd rather be just upfront where we are, and I think we have been very transparent this year. So, I mean, the game's always had an issue with communication, and it's still having an issue with communication. I mean, even if you look recently, the way the PvE was handled, the downscaling of the PvE was just not great. There was so many different ways they could have packaged that. Instead, they decided to just do it on a little live stream that they pre-recorded, in which they go, yeah, sorry guys, we're getting rid of this, but don't worry, it'll be fine. And obviously that's going to enrage the community. And I'm very confused the way whoever is advising Blizzard to do this, how they come to that decision that would be positive for the game. It would never be positive because this is bad news, but there are ways of packaging this to make it less of a blow, and I don't think they did. But I mean, look, there's loads of issues with communication, but I do like this acknowledgement of like, look, we realized that, this wasn't transparent communication, it's just more marketing, which, yeah, basically was seen as marketing. Whenever they did release some sort of dev comms or whatever from back in Overwatch 1, I can understand that, but I think it still is seen as marketing, especially the bi-weekly blogs from Aaron. And also they're also not always from Aaron, they could be from other developers. But yeah, more communication is okay, but it has to be good communication, right? There is a point where you can overcome and it's stuff people don't care about. You could even go off and say, well, maybe Overwatch is in this sort of world where it's just doing a lot of stuff and it's kind of stuff people don't overly care about. It's like, stop doing lots of stuff, just start doing quality stuff. I don't know. Jared Noose joined only over a year ago from Riot Games and is a relatively new member of the development team. Noose chimed in on this perspective, acknowledging the power of simply listening to the community. He shared his experience with online interactions. There is that magical thing that happens when people don't think you are listening. They try to hit you up with something aggressive, snarky, a little bit rude, or probing you just to respond like a person because you are a person, and then they immediately change tone. The observation didn't come off as dismissive, but rather empathetic. Words is difficult. To the player base, as Noose explained, people just want to be heard. They want you to listen. They want to know someone is on the other end of the phone. The battle pass alone is not enough. Massive caps there. What's going on there? Anyway, while fostering open communication was a primary focus, the Overwatch 2 team also had to face the challenge of adequately rewarding players for their time and effort. According to Keller, one lesson from the first 10 months was that the battle pass isn't enough content by itself. The battle pass alone is not enough for players to feel that their time investment that they put into the game is enough. Players want to feel recognized by the game that they are playing. Keller added that the players' feedback clearly indicated that the game wasn't adequately celebrating their playtime. Yes. One such instance is where the development team listened to player feedback was the lack of recognition the game had for achievements of players. To tackle this issue, the development team, the team developed a hero progression system designed to keep a comprehensive record of player activities. It tracks all the... Okay, well, I'll read this, but the progression system is weird. Oh, I'm going to say that. It's weird. Like, the graphics for it are poor. Like, the little icons are like... I don't know what is going on. It's like they're so low res. and they're not cut out properly. I don't know. It's really odd. It's odd. Anyway, it says it tracks all the heroes that you play across all sorts of different categories, explained Keller, clearly enthusiastic about the system's superiority over player levels. As part of their efforts to enhance the player experience, the Overwatch 2 team has had to reconsider how they planned their content schedules. We need to be agile in the way we map out seasons, stated Keller. He emphasized that the goal is not about releasing less content, but determining what players value the most. Okay. Balancing creativity with constant updates. The delicate equilibrium between creative expression and maintaining a steady flow of updates is a tightrope the Overwatch team has learned to navigate. As Keller outlined, achieving this balance involves evaluating the team's practices, the tools they have, and the manner in which they create content. It's a big adjustment for every team. It's really encouraging and very exciting to see how the team has adapted and changed perspectives and figured out how to do this, said Keller, reflecting on the team's progress so far. Part of that is learning what works in the development of a live service game. Another is to get the enlarged team up to speed on the tools the team uses, as Keller explained. Some of that is just the practices that the team has. Some of that is about evaluating the tools that we use in the way we create the content we create. I mean, okay, that's okay. I mean, this is basically, look, they're bringing on a new hire. The new hire has to be trained how to play the game, right? Well, not play the game, but how to create content for the game. I get that. They've got bespoke tools. You know, this probably takes 6, 7, 8 months for a new hire to get up to speed. So, you know, whatever. It's fine. Okay, so the next and the final, well, I guess the nearly final thing. How long is this video going for? We've been going for ages. Say, what is this? I apologize, but I hope you guys are enjoying it. Overwatch 2's Aaron Keller says Season 6 is stacked with content by design. Okay, so this is where we finally get through to the amount of content they've put into the game. But as I said earlier, it's like you can put content in, but it's like, is this resonating with the player base in a way that's meaningful? Again, written by Yiska. I think all of these are written by Yiska, aren't they? But anyway, good job, Yiska. Overwatch 2's Season 6 is labelled Overwatch Invasion and launches with the largest new content offering of any of its seasons under the live service model that debuted along the sequel. From the 3 PvE story missions to a new hero to an entirely new game mode with 2 of the largest competitive maps, never has more new content been injected into the game. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is we're just going to take a look at the quotes here and not so much all of the preamble. So one of the things we are trying to experiment with is what does good and exciting look for in a season of Overwatch, executive producer said. Season 6 is us saying, what if we stacked a bunch of really exciting stuff all in one moment in time and tried to break through the noise of every other season launch, game release, and everything else that's happening in the industry? Okay, so what? Like one of the things was, could we maybe just flood content out and it would be enough, and we could cut through the noise in the industry? I mean, what? Anyway, game director of Overwatch 2, Aaron Keller, echoed the sentiment, explaining, we stacked a bunch of content on Overwatch 2 Invasion. We did it because we're experimenting with different seasonal structures. One of the things we really wanted to try was, what if we just put all these big things that are awesome additions and different expressions of the game together? Okay. We have a value of not holding content. I don't think this, and by the way, this is good. I don't think we would feel good building something and then holding it for 6 months or a year and find the perfect slot in the cycle to release it, argued Keller, stating that the free-to-play industry moves too quickly for such strategies. Obviously, Overwatch has had a bad history with this, right? You know, they've made content in the past. You know, in 2019, that we were only playing now in 2023. The Rio mission, hello. But you guys remember, even that Rio mission that we played back in 2019 had a talent system in it and also had like items you could pick up in the level, and they were removed. Anyway, yeah, they've got a new Heroes Can. I mean, okay, I'm just going to go off on this because this is just the worst load of shit ever. This Heroes Can campaign doesn't sell anything about the game. It's just this like, Overwatch 2, Heroes Can, Overwatch is free to play. What does that, like, if you don't know anything about Overwatch, why would you go, okay, I'm going to play this? It's very odd. And this whole thing with John Cena, it's like, I don't know what this is about, right? Because this thing of like, we're going to invent this character called Enigma that's calling everyone back to fight the invasion. But by the way, it's this massive celebrity we've paid tens of millions of dollars to do this, and like, what? What? This makes no sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm just like, what? Okay, it finally goes on to say, there is so much riding on this thing for us. It's really about what does a good season look like. Okay, you can take that with a pinch of salt. Like, they are trying to work out what a good season looks like. The thing is, though, a good season looks like a season that generates the maximum revenue. That's the issue with a good season when it comes to Overwatch 2. And the problem is the ways they're trying to do that are, flooding us with content, putting the best skins in the shop, putting heroes in the battle pass, and they're all selling PvE, but also bundling it as sort of like a battle pass sale. And okay, we're not going to read this thing about why Assault was removed from the game, because we already know. Anyway, the final thing we're going to get through this video, because I told you there was a lot to go over in this video, is this. Overwatch 2 dev team calm on declining player engagement. And they say this is, well, we see a normal ebb and flow of players. So this is from IGN, and they say, the Overwatch 2 development team says it's unconcerned by declining player engagement, insisting it's seeing the normal ebb and flow associated with free-to-play games. Blizzard launches Invasion, the hero shooter's 6th season, hot on the heels of stark comments from Activision Blizzard, which confirmed Overwatch 2's engagement and player investment had declined during the 3 months to June the 30th. At the time, Activision Blizzard pointed to today's release of Invasion, which adds a new hero, new story missions, new maps, as a potential flashpoint of much-needed interest. Potential flashpoint, that's the game mode. Come on, guys. You can't put that in an article about the new game, that's a flashpoint. But in an interview with reporters ahead of launch, Blizzard played down the importance of Invasion as a make-or-break moment for Overwatch 2. I think it is a make-or-break moment for the game. I really do. I really, really do. But, like, the thing is, and this is part of, I guess, a wider discussion about Overwatch 2. It's almost like they've shoved the PvE stuff out now, and that's out of the way, right? We've had the whole drama about PvE, but it's now like they're sitting back and going, look, we're a PvP game, so now we're just going to try and develop a PvP game and go from there. If they do that, the game will be sustainable for indefinitely, basically. But you won't. I find it really hard to see the moment of like, this is when we have impact and draw in a ton of new players, which Invasion is their last chance at that. More of like, it's just business as usual, which isn't bad. Overwatch, it's not a dead game by any stretch of the imagination. And maybe this is more of like, a realignment back to PvP being the focus, which you could argue should have always have been the focus. But as we know, they did want to develop PvE. And I still do think PvE would have been a fantastic addition to the game, but just not at the cost it turned out to be to the development of the game. And ultimately, the way it launched, which is a bit of a flop. So they go on to say this. There is this interesting thing about how we stacked a bunch of content on Overwatch 2 Invasion, said Jared Noose. We did that because we're experimenting with different seasonal structures. And one of the things we really wanted to try was, what if we just put all this big stuff, these awesome additions and different expressions of the game together? That really isn't like there's so much riding on this kind of thing for us. For us, it's really about, what does a good season look like? We've tried a bunch of other stuff, right? We tried a very thematic approach in Season 5. We've tried different things in Season 2 and 3. So it's less about, is there all this stuff running on Overwatch 2 Invasion, and more about, what do we think is the right rhythm and cadence, and how do we create those big moments for our players? Addressing the declining player engagement, News put it down to Overwatch 2's free-to-play status, which encourages players to dip in and out as they see fit. The declining stuff is basically, we are a free-to-play game, and it's very easy to both come to the game and check it out, and to leave to check out other stuff. We see a normal ebb and flow of players. There's nothing concerning to me or the team about any of that. Okay. Overwatch 2's Invasion introduced the... this is just the end of the article. No more information. So I think, to be honest, we'll leave it at that. We'll give this a cheeky refresh. Where are we at now? Dropping down a little bit in terms of players. But yeah, I think the thing is, guys, I think this Overwatch Invasion just sort of turned out how I think everyone expected it to be after we were told the PvE had been basically changed into what we've got. I think it's okay. It doesn't blow my socks off. The most enthralling addition to the game right now for me is definitely the new hero. Iliari is fantastic. She's overtuned, yeah. And I mean, we could go back to the whole comment from the executive producer about not releasing OP heroes to sell battle passes. But like, that's the draw of this game, and it always will be. This is a game about heroes. You come into the game, you want to be a hero, you select a hero you like the the look of, the kit of, you know, the backstory of, and you play that hero, and that's what you resonate with. That's what the game's about. And it seems crazy to me that they make comments going like, oh, by the way, we think heroes are the main attraction of the game. Yeah, yeah. All right, this video's been way too long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment below. Let me know how you've been getting on with Iliari. I think I've played, I've played about 4 or 5 hours so far today of Iliari. I've been playing quick play, and I've been playing some of the Flashpoint mode. Still not sure about Flashpoint, to be honest. There's a lot of running back to the fights. Long run distance. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. I'm absolutely starving. I'm going to go and take Olive out for a walk. I don't know where she's gone. I think she's over there. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. See you soon.